is an advisor to Ukraine's Minister of Strategic Industries. He's also in Kyiv. First of all, then, what was his experience of last night's attack by Russia?
James, this was next level. I have seen many of these attacks, but what we experienced last night was something else because the whole of the city of Kyiv, the capital, was covered in fires and smokes, and until early hours in the morning. For example, I stay in central Kyiv, and my flat was fully filled with smoke, and it was almost not possible to breathe. Overnight, the Russians have launched overall 539 Shahed-type drones, and more than 330 of those were headed towards Kyiv. So essentially, it was, the attack lasted about 4 hours, and it was very bad.
And the point is that the numbers of drones and missiles was so great that air defences just can't cope with that sort of number. So many will always get through.
In essence, our air defenses are still doing a great job in terms of intercepting and shooting down these drones, as well as cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, because we have to mention that last night, in addition to drones, Russians have launched cruise and ballistic missiles as well as hypersonic missiles. So our air defense forces are really doing a great job with what they have. But of course, for example, if you imagine that there's a drone flying over your head, we can, like everybody who's in Kyiv, you can just hear these drones buzzing above your head at night. So for our air defense forces, sometimes, they just let the drone go over the houses because it's, if it's a densely populated residential area where people, could be in their homes, it's not really feasible to shoot down these drones because even when they're shot down, when they fall, they explode on impact and they cause damage. There's so many houses that have been ruined actually by the debris of the intercepted drones.
Yeah. The barrage came, just hours after that phone call between President Trump and Vladimir Putin. Was the Russian leader sending a message, do you think?
Well, I'm not sure if he was sending a message, but this is the continuation of the terror tactics. And, just hours after Donald Trump said that he doesn't feel like Putin is interested in peace, Putin has proven that this is exactly the reality, and he's actually mocking the president of the US because it's not the first time that after that phone call, there was a massive combined missile and drone attack on Ukraine.
And so what does your president need to say when he talks to President Trump, possibly today? How can he persuade him to keep supporting Ukraine? Because that seems to be ebbing away, doesn't it?
Well, in fact, Donald Trump is really, we believe, sincerely concerned with the loss of lives in Ukraine as a result of this war. So our president will just have to tell him, and that's what he probably will tell him, that, if the United States of America doesn't provide Ukraine with the sufficient number of anti-aircraft missiles and interceptors, the rate of these casualties will just continue to grow. And of course, our president will tell Donald Trump that there's only one way to stop Russia, which is to make it impossible for it to prosecute this war. And that means tightening the sanctions regime. There are so many leverages that Donald Trump has that he can use. Like, for example, Russia's shadow fleet must be totally under sanctions. Sanctions on oil and energy sectors must be stricter. It is also possible to agree with partners and reduce the price of oil because Russia continues to, fuel its war machinery from the proceeds of the oil trade.
So far, though, he seems extremely reluctant to do that. Why do you think he will now?
Yeah, but at the same time, I think he's also more and more frustrated with the stance of Russia. Like, for example, if this phone call happened a month ago, he would probably have commented that, well, it was a beautiful phone call. But this time he just came out and he says Putin is not there. He just doesn't want peace. So that means that probably realization is setting in Donald Trump, and he will act more, decisively.
So why is the US this week saying that it's going to, suspend the supply of some weapons, including some air defense systems, to Ukraine? They say it's to protect their own stockpiles, but do you buy that? Is this actually about winding down support?
We know for a fact that the stockpiles of different types of ammunition, not just air defense munitions, they are running low, right? Because this is an unprecedented war of unprecedented scale. Now, at the same time, we know that the defense industries, both in the US and Europe and Ukraine, are ramping up production. And as State Department actually clarified, the decision that the US Pentagon has now taken refers to a specific incident and to specific types of munitions. And Donald Trump himself said that he's already given task to his generals to find alternative solutions. So we believe that this does not, this pause, it's just an audit of the US capabilities, and that this will not interfere or influence the overall supply of support.
Can I ask you one other question? I mean, if we've had a series of very large-scale attacks on the capital, Kyiv, in recent weeks. If they do continue to claim lives and cause so much damage and sow fear amongst people, is there a danger that people's morale will, well, start to collapse? And
James,
people may say, look, actually, we need to seek peace at any cost. This can't go on.
Let me answer you, James, this question like this. So last night, 9 p.m., we all started getting messages that Russia has launched hundreds of drones at Ukraine. So when that happens, these days, people grab their children, grab their dogs and cats and go to bomb shelters. And when our Ukrainian people are in bomb shelters under these attacks, you know what they do? They donate to the Ukrainian army to get more weapons to continue to defend Ukraine. So that's just an example of our resilience and our determination, because we know that this is for us about survival, and this is an existential threat to us. So no amount of these missiles will break our will to fight.
And that was Yuriy Sak, advisor to Ukraine's Minister of Strategic Industry, speaking to me from Kyiv. You're listening to Newshour.